Okay, so we're going to go through the process of creating an action and a droplet. So I have an image open here from a folder that you will be supplied with called images, with a whole lot of my images in there. So we're just going to use this image as a kind of guinea pig to set up our first action. So the actions panel is here. You can access it also from Window, Actions. And we're going to first of all create a set for our own actions, because these actions here automatically come with Photoshop. You can explore them on your own. So I'm going to click on Create New Set, and I'm just going to call it Mike's Actions. You can call it by your own name if you're following along. And then I'm going to make my first action by clicking on this little plus button. And I'm going to call this one Landscape Watermark, and press record. As soon as I press record, all my actions are being recorded, which means that even things like undos get recorded. So make sure you've got a fairly clear idea of what you're going to be doing before you start an action. So I'm going to create a watermark. I'm going to take my type tool and I'm just going to type my name, and I'll put a copyright sign after that. And I'm now going to just change some of the settings here. So I'm going to make it nice and bold. So let's just choose Arial Black, and I'll set the font size to 80, and I'll set the color to white. And then go back to my move tool. I'm going to rotate this, so Command or Control T, and I'm just going to hold down Shift and just rotate it 90 degrees like that. And then let me just close this for a moment, and then back to my move tool, and I'm going to just position this in the bottom right corner like that as my copyright credit. And I'll change the opacity to 50% so it's not as prominent. And then I'm going to flatten my layers so that it's back to just one layer. So Layer, Flatten Image. Now I can go back to my actions and I can stop recording. So you'll see here under this Landscape Watermark action, it's actually got recorded there all of the things that I've just done. Alright, so I'm going to close that up, and I'm going to close this image without saving it, because I was just using it to record the action. And now I'm going to open up a portrait image. So that one was landscape. This one is going to be a portrait watermark. So let's create a new action. We'll call it portrait watermark and record. And I'm going to do exactly the same thing. Take my type tool, click, and copyright symbol. It should have remembered all my settings here, so that's all good. Back to my move tool, Command or Control T. Let's rotate it around. Enter. Move down into position. Opacity 50%. Layer, flatten image. And then I'm going to stop the recording. So we have two actions here, one for a landscape watermark and one for a portrait watermark. And the reason why we do that is because even though the images coming off my camera are all the same size, if I was to apply the landscape watermark to a portrait photo, the watermark would actually be off the photo, so it's a different kind of positioning. So now what we have to do is we could actually just apply these actions to our landscape images and the other action to our portrait images, but I actually want Photoshop to do that for me. So I'm going to add a new action, and I'm just going to call it watermarks or watermark, and record. And then I'm going to go to my options for my actions panel and say insert conditional. And this is going to be, if the document is landscape, then apply landscape watermark, else play portrait watermark. So what Photoshop will do is it will determine if the document is landscape or portrait. If it's landscape, it will apply the action called landscape watermark. If it's portrait, it will apply the action called portrait watermark, and then OK, and then stop. So now I have this watermark action, which is actually going to do that for me. So if I now want to use these actions, I'm going to close this image without saving, and I'm just going to go to File, Automate, Batch. And here I can choose the action set, so Mike's actions, the action, watermark, the folder, so here I can say I want to choose a folder where all the images are. Okay, so there it is, images. And then you have some options here. I'm just going to leave this all on. And then where do I want to put my processed images? I'm going to say folder, choose. I'll just make a folder on my desktop, and I'll call this watermarked images. Okay, so I'm going to choose that folder. How do I want to name the files? I'm just going to name them the same as what they were. And everything else should be fine. So I'm just going to press OK. Let's see if it works. Okay, so it's going to come up with this save as JPEG thing. So I'm just going to press OK and just keep pressing OK. I could actually override this JPEG option in those batch settings, but I'm just going to press OK each time until it's gone through all the photos. Okay, so how quick was that? And if I go to my desktop to that image watermarks, you'll see now each one of these images has a watermark on it. And even the landscape one has a watermark in the right position as well. So very quickly I can apply an action to my images. Now, even easier than applying an action, I can go further than that, and I can actually create a droplet. So a droplet is just a place on my desktop or somewhere on my computer where I can just drop the images and it automatically processes them. So I'm going to go to File, Automate, Create Droplet. And then I'm going to choose where to save it. I'm just going to say desktop, and I'll call it Watermark for MK McFadden. Save. Okay, and then I'm going to play from Mike's actions the watermark action. Everything else should be okay. And where do I want to put it? In a folder, and I'll choose the folder, and let me just make another folder here. I'm just going to call these watermark droplet images. Okay, just so that they're different from the other watermarked images, and then choose, and then press OK. So now if I minimize Photoshop and go to my desktop, over here is my droplet. You just pop it there. And all that I do when I want to process an image is, let me go to my original images over here. So all I do is I drag an image onto the droplet and drop it, and it processes it, opens Photoshop. I'll just press OK, processes it, and now if I go and look on my desktop in that folder, there's an image and there's the watermark. So Droplet is just a nice easy way for me to just think, oh, I couldn't be bothered with going into Photoshop and finding that action. I'm just going to drag my images onto that droplet and then just let them process automatically. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel and see you next time.